Hello and welcome to today's video. This is part 3 of chapter 3, Stop Filling the Gap. And the Bible verse is Psalm chapter 34, verse 11. Come, my children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. All right, and here is where we left off. Don't speak without first listening. The one who gives an answer before he listens, this is foolishness and disgrace for him. My youngest son loves to tell a good story. He reenacts every detail with his body and facial expressions as well as the inflections in his voice. He typically tells me these stories just after he's come through the back kitchen door and tossed his backpack on our wooden bench. I'm usually doing dishes, mixing up the meatloaf, or sorting through the day's mail. As he launches into his reenactment full force, I nod and give the occasional uh-huh and oh really? But my man cub is wise to my distraction. He can tell whether or not I am really listening. Sometimes he calls me out by asking me to repeat back to him what he just said. Drat! Why did I do the same thing to my kids when they were younger? Now they know my trick. He picks up on my cues that tell whether I am really engaged with my ears and my eyes and my brain or whether I am simply faking it. The authors of Proverbs urge us to really listen to the other person before responding, thereby saving ourselves from looking foolish again. Do you see how closely our words are linked to our looking like a fool or bringing disgrace? Listening is more than just being quiet for a moment. It's not just the pause we were talking about earlier. Listening includes paying attention to the whole person, and especially their emotions. When we really listen, we give careful attention not just to the words a person says, but also to the feelings he or she is trying to communicate. Listening requires attending to the other person's heart. So how do we do that? The skill of repeating or mirroring what someone has just said can be quite helpful here. Every once in a while, stop and repeat back to the person what you think you are hearing them say. For example, so I think what I'm hearing you say is that although you are invited to the party, you're not sure if Annie really wants you to come, and this is making you hesitant to go. Is that what you mean? The value of mirroring is that it not only demonstrates to the other person that you are listening, it also helps to clarify that you are accurately understanding what's being said. In fact, clarifying questions are essential to good listening. Michael, our life group leader, does this regularly in our group conversations. For example, he might ask someone to elaborate on a word or phrase. If they said they felt sad about something, he might ask them to elaborate on what they mean by the word sad. What kind of sad? Why do they think it made them sad? Why do they think it made them feel sad? What could have happened differently that would have made them feel happy instead? In addition to asking clarifying questions, Michael has also taught our group how to listen for what he calls heart drops. This is when a person drops a hint about something deeper going on in her heart without really coming out and saying it directly. Maybe from her conversation you sense that she's feeling rejection or loneliness or that she feels inadequate. If you sense a heart drop, acknowledge it by asking for more information. Go back to when you were talking about your father never going to your games when you were young. How did that make you feel? How do you think it might be affecting you today? Then shut your mouth and let her do the talking. Picking up someone's heart drop is a great way to help her express herself more directly. One caution: resist the temptation to put words in someone's mouth. If you sense a heart drop, don't say to the person, "So what I'm hearing you say is that you feel lonely and rejected and like you are a loser in life. Is that right?" Trust me, that will not help that person or your relationship with her at all. Instead, Focus on the emotion by asking open-ended questions, questions to which you do not know the answer. Yes, learn to really listen before you speak. It will not only save you heartache, but it will help others to express their hearts as well. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. Boy, oh boy, is this hard for all of us who are gap fillers. Sometimes we just can't stand a moment of silence in a conversation. We fidget and fuss, and soon we blurt out something just because we can't stand the awkwardness of silence. However, silence is more than golden. It can also be God-sent. He might use it to give us some breathing space, a brief interlude that allows us to process the conversation or pay attention to the emotions behind the words. I find it interesting that not all cultures view silence as awkward. Some pass long stretches of time just being together. No words, no worry, just complete quiet. To them, what feels strange is when someone tries to fill up all the silence with speech. Publilius Syrus, a Roman writer, in the first century BC, is quoted as saying, "I have often regretted my speech, never my silence." I love the way the amplified version of the Bible expresses this truth. Even a fool, when he holds his peace, is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is esteemed a man of understanding. Yes, sometimes the best thing is to say nothing at all. We have been close friends with a couple for nearly 30 years. My husband, Richard, is a very quiet man. I can't ever remember him saying something offensive. In fact, I don't remember him saying much at all because he is usually pretty quiet. Unless, of course, you bring up a subject near and dear to both our hearts, which is the Detroit Tigers. Then we could chat for hours. I've always thought how great it is that Richard doesn't have a lot of words to regret. At least not ones I know about. But there is another asset to Richard being the strong, silent type. When he does speak, people almost always listen. When he had something to say in a Bible study we both once attended, it was usually a great point. And honestly, even though others in the group, me, talked more frequently and used more flowery and theological terms, often it was Richard's words that stood out. Because he doesn't just drone on and on all the time, sounding like the teacher in a Charlie Brown cartoon. When he does have something to say, people tend to listen. Some of us just need to accept the fact that it is often perfectly fine to say nothing at all. Yes, we don't have to use fancy words and big terms or convincing arguments to be thought of as smart. We just need to learn to keep it shut. Who knew? These Old Testament tweets offer punchy, practical bits of advice that, if followed, also allow us not only to temper our tongues, but also to strengthen relationships. Do you feel one of them might help in your life right now? Have you been talking too much or speaking too soon? Did you answer before really listening or fail to remain silent when now you wish you had zipped it? What impact did it have on a friendship or your relationship with a family member or coworker? I've struggled with all of these situations at various times, most recently with the whole speaking too soon routine. My 16-year-old son had a baseball game last week. Upon returning home that night, he walked by me in the kitchen, and I noticed that the back pocket of his uniform had something round in it. Round like a tin of chewing tobacco. I opened my mouth and promptly let loose, accusing and lecturing in classic mama form. What in the world? Chewing tobacco? Not only is that stuff cancer-causing, it is illegal for people your age. You are in big trouble, buddy. Give that to me now. He looked at me a bit cockeyed as he slowly smiled and reached into his back pocket, which I found odd for a 16-year-old boy about to have one bummer of a summer due to being placed on house arrest. He concealed his hand behind his back for a few seconds, and then when he finally forked it over, I saw the reason for his grin. It was a tin, all right. A tin of cool watermelon mints. My little jump to conclusion lecture taught me something. I need to get better at asking questions before I hurl accusations. Or better yet, ask questions, listen patiently to the answers, and then don't accuse at all. Investigate? Process and pray? Oh, yes. Pronounce a loss of privilege to a child? Perhaps. But not speak words I'll regret before I have all the facts. Less talk, more listening. Yep, that's what we need. We may also need a little listening lesson in another crucial area, our relationship with God. Not only is it a bad habit to talk too much and to talk before we really listen, but I have also discovered something else about my just gotta have the next and of course the last word. Behavior. It often means this. Not only am I not listening to the person I am with, I am also not listening to God. When I yak too much, I can't hear him whisper to me what I should and should not be saying. I can't ask God about the answer he might want me to give to questions I'm being asked. Instead, I'm focused only on expressing my opinions and exerting my will, which reminds me of another truth about talking too much. A self-confident fool has no delight in understanding, but only in revealing his personal opinions and himself. That's from Proverbs chapter 18, verse 2. Ouch. How about you? How do you rate in the listening, talking, and expressing your own opinion departments? Think back on your last few conversations. Did you seek to really understand the other person? Or were you more concerned with getting your words out first? Did you make an intentional effort to listen to God as you were conversing with others, taking your cues from Him about what you should say and what you shouldn't say? Or were you focused on asserting your own opinions? Question. If those closest to you were asked, which would they say more accurately describes you? A great listener or a constant chatterbox? Has not really listening to the other person or failing to listen to God as you were talking with someone ever caused you trouble? What happened? If you could have do-overs, how would you go back and handle the interaction differently? Want to take a double dog dare? For the next 24 to 48 hours, make an effort to really listen to the people in your life. Purpose to not give your opinion unless you are directly asked. Instead, seek to ask clarifying questions that will help you better understand what the other person is expressing. Beyond that, keep your thoughts to yourself. See if anyone comments on the difference they see in you. My family always asks if I have laryngitis. Let's pinky promise today that we will seek to be quick to listen and slow to speak, not the other way around. Our family and friends will thank us for it, and they might just get a word in edgewise. I know you can do it. With a little effort, energized with the power of the Holy Spirit, we can all better learn to keep it shut. Thank you for joining me for today's video. That's the end of chapter 3. We will be going into chapter 4 tomorrow. I hope you've all had a very wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!